Hey, HC. Is this working? Hey, Bianca.
Hello.
Bianca, did you get in?
Can you hear me? No, I'm at the door. It's not opening.
Oh, goodness. Yes, we have a new set of codes. Let me email you. Hey, G, how are you?
Okay.
Here, hang on just a second. Be right back.
Okay.
Hey, sorry, it took me a second to join. Can you all hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like funny new interface.
Yeah, it seems I like it though. I feel like it's a good. It seems like it's great for a conference.
Yeah.
Never seen it before.
I like the one-on-one networking thing. That seems pretty cool.
I can't hear you right now, HC.
Me neither.
Your volume bars aren't moving for some reason yet, but it doesn't look like there's a mute icon. Oh wait, no, unmute. No, still.
How about now? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bianca, I just emailed your Yahoo account with the door code. Sorry about that.
Okay. No worries.
Last week, 2 weeks ago now.
If I get it.
And have y'all tried the screen sharing? Is that how we're doing the?
That's a good thing.
The PowerPoint. Thing?
Who do you want to share the PowerPoint as we move along? Should we assign it to someone?
I could be in control of that, and then G and May, you can just May's not here yet because she's teaching, but you can let me know, and then I'll click to the next when you all want to talk about the artist. But how?
It's the little monitor button, which is crossed out on the bottom of your screen. It's like an external monitor thing.
I hit allow.
Cool.
Oh, goodness.
So sharing your whole screen.
Be cool.
Whoa, it's doing the kind of, what's that called? Missing and being.
Infinite recursive monitor.
We're in a portal.
I never understood why I did that. I guess I guess I get it because it's your own screen. Yeah, that makes sense.
Wait, so you all can see this? If I hit present.
Okay, great.
You can see it?
Tyler's here. Good morning, Tyler.
It's loading.
It's loading. Okay. Still loading?
Okay. Great.
Do we want to go quickly through kind of like a run of show?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah. So the outline.
Yes.
You take it away,
into the
Bianca.
gallery first. Okay. Do you know how because when I show the presentation, I can't see this at all. I can't see you all, so I have no idea if what I'm doing is correct. Do you know how I can see the, Yeah.
Is there a way to share just the window? Can you, let me see.
Is Tyler still here? No, he left.
Yeah, what you could do is you could, in the Google slide, you could click present or view. And then you could just share the window that opens up. That way you can see our boxes. And where it says present, the little arrow.
Oh, shoot. Let me see.
You can, or maybe there's not an arrow. Let me see what there's. It looks like there's something there. Yeah, the little down arrow.
What do you all see?
Great. So what should have happened? So you have two windows now. You have the kind of two browser windows. So
Yeah.
now you should unshare and then when you go back to your sharing options, you should click window.
How do I pause?
Yeah, if you go back to the browser with all of us.
Because, oh no. I
You know
have,
what I mean?
no. Because there's two, you can see both of them, correct, right now? Or
Yes.
Yeah. Or maybe I can demonstrate.
Okay.
Or can I demonstrate? Oh yeah. Okay. So at this, go back to the little monitor.
This one?
Yeah. Or no, on the portal on what's it called? Hopin, on the Hopin browser. At the bottom of the screen next to the microphone, the little icon to the right of that.
To the right, this one with the screen?
Yeah.
Yep.
I think you'll unshare. And then when you share again, you can click just window. And then what you'll do is you'll click just the window that shows the PowerPoint.
Wait,
Yeah.
how do I do that? I'm confused. So
Okay, when you
I'm
click
sharing-
on screen share, there are 3 tabs up top. There's entire screen, window, and Chrome tab.
where, because when I share, all it does is automatically I don't get the 3 tabs. I don't know what,
Oh.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, should we see, basically, if I just present, and why is this? Let me see. Give me 1 second. Oh, what's this?
Unless you want me to test it out, and then we can see if that works.
Yeah, can you test it out and see? Let me stop sharing.
Yeah, for sure. Hold on, let me see which tab this is.
There. Did I stop sharing?
Full screen. No, that's not right. There you go.
Okay. And we're just doing the run of show right now.
Oh, Bianca, you have your screen share on twice.
How do you do that?
Oh, that's weird.
I can remove you. I'll remove it.
Yeah. So the outline that we sketched
Wait,
out
what?
had like,
How?
what's that?
Okay.
Oh, the outline we sketched out had brief intros, 5 minutes. I don't know. Is there a chat? Maybe I can drop this in like a chat here. Will everyone see this though?
Probably.
That's a good question.
Maybe not then. Maybe I'll send it directly somehow. Okay.
Well, I have it up, so I don't need
Okay,
it.
you have it up. So it says HC and Dylan intros and welcome for 5 minutes. And I think that was just a ballpark time. And then us sharing kind of opening themes and questions, like what brought us to the project and the exhibition for like 3 minutes. And then we planned like this longer virtual walkthrough we think will take 20 to 25 minutes. But essentially, May and I will kind of go through the works alternating, like Stephanie Dinkins, then American, then Mimi, then Hannah, then Sandra, then E. Jane, spending about 3 minutes on each. It might be more than 3 minutes or less. So I think 20 minutes was like, well, 3 times 6 is 18. And then things take longer than you think. And,
We have flexibility with time, so don't worry about that.
And then we did leave like, 10 minutes if there was like kind of a questions, like if we hit a groove. Oh, I guess May's just arrived. But yeah, depending on how the flow is, we'll see. May.
Hi. Oh, there I
Hey,
am.
May.
Hey.
Good morning.
I don't think we've met.
We have not.
Hi, I'm HC.
Nice to meet you. I'm May. I'm really happy that this platform worked for me this morning. I was worried about having tech issues at the 11th hour.
Me too. I'm glad too. May, are you on the West Coast or are you in the mid?
No, I'm East Coast. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So it's not super early for you, but good morning.
No, I just I taught an art class this morning, so I just ran from that.
Cool. Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks for being here with us. That's
So
cool.
it was an in-person art class. So you were there's like virtual running or digital running?
So this was no, I drove. I drove to you.
Like old
Yeah,
times.
so it was in person. I know, it was so great. We take our masks off outside after we wash our hands and have snack time, but otherwise, so it's 10-year-olds and they're really great about wearing the mask the whole time. Like I find that adults have much more of an issue of wearing masks than kids do, and they're like, we just want to color.
Mhm. Oh,
So it was fun. We all tried to recreate this Jacob Lawrence painting of a son teaching or a father teaching his son to play piano. Came up with some really cool stuff.
oh wow.
And then we ran out of and then the energy overflowed, and we were all running around during the snack. And I was like, you guys, let's all pick up a leaf and let's just see how many sounds we can make. We're talking about finding inspiration from our environment and from sounds. And clearly we're doing that. Like, everybody, let's see how many different kinds of sounds we can get right here. And then we're going to take some leaves inside and do some stuff with them, which, yeah.
Sounds amazing. Kind of thinking on your feet.
Yeah. I feel like most of teaching is just like, I don't want to say fake it till you make it, but it really is that, like, well, I had a lesson plan and it didn't happen like that.
Mm-hmm.
The lesson plan is within you. You know, it is you.
Yes.
You are the
Yes.
I'm going to apologize to you all in advance that if I turn my camera and mic off for a minute, it's because I am sneezing. I was actually walking outside today, and I think it's it's definitely not a cold thing, but it's like fall, leaves, molds, things like that. So I will try not
The
to.
changing of weather.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, does anyone know where Bianca went? She disappeared.
Hmm.
It's a connectivity issue in our gallery.
Okay.
I mean, I hope not. Let me text her.
Have there been any changes to the order of the slides or plans that I missed?
I don't believe so. Yeah. I just ran through our outline really quickly with HC, who has access to it.
She says she's here, but we can't see her. I am here, but you can't see me, she says.
Tell her to request, because I might have accidentally kicked her out because she had her screen share on like twice.
Oh yeah, I see her in the list of, invite to video call. Let's try this. Sending invite. Oh, wait a minute. No, I just invited her to a private meeting room. Not what I meant to do.
No, she has to do it up top on the upper right-hand corner.
So maybe leave and rejoin if not, Bianca.
It should be like a blue button.
Is her screen share working still? I don't see that.
No, I'm screen sharing.
Oh, you are? Okay, cool.
Yes.
Oh, that is what's up right now. I get it. That's you. Great.
Okay, yeah, here we go.
Okay, Bianca's coming back.
Okay. Can you all see me now?
Yeah.
I was like here the whole time, but I was confused why I wasn't there.
Oh, weird. Could you hear us? Like you were like, I'm there. Like you're in the upside down.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, we're all
Can you
together
all
now.
hear me? Because the Wi-Fi is a little bit like lagging. Yeah.
You're a little choppy.
Okay.
So I need to switch this order on my notes.
Do we need a few minutes? Because I can make an announcement on the main event chat to let people know that we'll start in like a few minutes.
Either
Yeah.
seven after kind of theater start.
Okay, 7 after. Okay. And then Dylan, you're okay
Cool.
if I kind of start and like kind of do the intro, I'll read this first slide and then do an intro for EFA and then hand it over to you for Project Space.
Yeah, that sounds great. And I mean, like 2 paragraphs. I'm not going to talk very much at all. I'm just going to thank everyone and, introduce you by name. But I wanted to check, the bios are online, right? So I can just flag. We don't need to read speaker bios. Are they somewhere posted or yeah?
Yeah, I don't think we need our bios, right? Red?
I can send it to Project Space. Go ahead, send it. Y'all are on there. Cool. All right. And then I'm going to read I was just going to read the longer land acknowledgement that we have as part of my intro. It's great that you're flagging it there from EFA, and then I'll just give a little, that's like the last thing. I basically have like 3 sentences, and then I hand it over to, I guess, to G, yeah? Is that how we do the order, or should I hand it over to Bianca?
Yeah, I'm flexible.
Bianca, did you still want to, I know we-
Yeah,
we
I
had
was thinking,
yeah.
I was thinking G, and then he could say, like, ask May and why did we join, like, why did we want to help out and join his curatorial project? And then we would start the presentation.
Great, okay. We're probably just about to go.
Yeah.
Should we start now? A few more minutes?
I'm cool to start if
Maybe
you
a
all are.
We're all good? Everyone's good?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right, great. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today on this EFA's Dark Data Curatorial Walkthrough and Discussion hosted by EFA Project Space and led by Wesley, May Miller, and Bianca Dominguez. My name is H.C. Huynh. I am the Director of Special Projects here at EFA, the Elizabeth Foundation for the Arts. And to start off with our program, I'm going to do a brief introduction on organization. There will be a Q&A open comments portion later in the program. Feel free to use the chat to ask questions, make comments, or give shout outs as we go. Be respectful of everyone. EFA is an inclusive and affirming environment. We are anti-oppression in all forms and no hate will be tolerated. And we're going to do a brief land acknowledgement, and Dylan, my colleague, will do a more extensive one after. We would like to honor, acknowledge, and affirm the Lenni Lenape Indigenous community and ancestors for allowing us to hold space together in the greater New York City area. For more information on upcoming exhibitions at EFA Project Space, visit www.projectspace-efanyc.org. And for more information on EFA RBPMW and the EFA Studio Program, including the current open call for studio members, which will open up in October, visit www.efanyc.org. So the mission of the Elizabeth Foundation for the Arts is that we are a 501c3 public charity dedicated to providing artists across all disciplines with space, tools, and a cooperative forum for the development of individual practice. We are a catalyst for cultural growth, stimulating new interactions between artists, creative communities, and the public. EFA has 3 major programs. They are EFA Studio Program, EFA Project Space, and EFA Robert Blackburn Printmaking Workshop. And you can find more on our programs on our website. And so I'm going to hand over the talk to my colleague, Dylan Gauthier, who's EFA's program director of EFA Project Space, and he'll talk more on the program.
Great, thank you so much, HC. Good morning, everyone. I'm Dylan Gauthier. My pronouns are he, him, his. And first off, just want to say so much gratitude to the organizers of today's event. I'm so grateful and honored to be here with you all this morning, to be able to share the work we do at EFA and at Project Space, and in the presence of our three amazing co-curators, who I will be introducing in just a moment, of our current exhibition, Dark Data. Curator G. Wesley and co-curators May Miller and Bianca Dominguez are going to take us on, I think it'll be a thrilling walk through the exhibition in just a couple of minutes. I want to just flag that speaker bios as well as artist bios for all of the participating artists in the show are available online at projectspace-efanyc.org, and I've put that in the chat as well. Dark Data, the exhibition currently on view, will remain open to the public until October 30th. So if you're in New York and you have plenty of time to visit the show in person, bring your friends, students, etc. We are also having an open studios event at EFA later in October, so plenty of opportunities for those who are local to come and check us out. You can sign up for a visit on our website at projectspace-efanyc.org. And also to give a little shout out that Dark Data, this incredible exhibition came to us through our biannual open call for curatorial proposals and artist project proposals. The last round, we focused on the theme of bright futures, which was drawn from the work of Oakland-based artist Lucasa Branthman of Verissimo, who's one of our trusted advisors at Project Space. And so this is one in a series of programs revolving around ideas of bright futurity. So for an earlier exhibition, speculations on the infrared, we looked at indigenous futurity and came up with a more extensive land acknowledgement that I just want to read for everyone today before handing over the mic to G. So this is Lenapehoking, the Lenape homeland and gathering place for many indigenous nations and beings. When the unceded earth breathes again, there will be indigenous lives here, as there are now and have always been. It will still be Lenapehoking. We learn from the bedrock and commit to uplifting, honoring, and listening to those who are seen and unseen, present and future. So with that, thank you all very much for joining us this morning on a Saturday, and I'm going to hand it over to G. Wesley, who'll be walking us through the exhibition, along with Bianca Rose Dominguez and May Miller. So thank you.
Thank you, Dylan. Thank you, HC. Hi, everyone. It's such a pleasure and an honor to be here with you all. My name is G. Wesley. I use he, him pronouns, and I'm part of the curatorial team for Dark Data, an exhibition currently on view at EFA Project Space. I'm joined today, as you can see, by the rest of the curatorial team for this project, who include Bianca Rose Dominguez and May Miller. So I'll provide maybe a brief kind of opening remarks about the exhibition, its original impetus and conceptual underpinnings, and pass things over to May and Bianca, who will provide some information about what drew them to this project and the open call at EFA, and some of their thinking around the project as well. So following that, we'll provide a kind of sort of virtual walkthrough of the exhibition, unpack some of the key aesthetic strategies, and how these intersect with the political and social urgencies that run throughout the exhibition. So in the kind of most brief terms, Dark Data explores the pervasive forms of data collection, mass surveillance, and digital hypervisibility that are visited upon Black life through a range of technologies, including predictive policing, data mining algorithms, artificial intelligence, and other emergent internet and digital-based technologies. The artists in the exhibition, as you can see on this wall, include American artist Hannah Black, Stephanie Dinkins, Mimi Onaha, Sandra Perry, and E. Jane, or I should say E. Jane. So this term dark data kind of came to us as kind of referring to information assets that are collected and stored by corporations and the government, but which ultimately go unutilized. And typically that's due to constraints of storage or the expiration of the data's relevance. So it's a kind of phrase that describes information assets that are temporarily sourced and captured, yet these kind of vast reserves are eventually purged before they can be monetized, analyzed, or assimilated into systems of control and profit. So as this term, it kind of conjures both this like ubiquity of unsanctioned data collection by corporations and the state, while also serving as a metaphor for a host of like fugitive practices that can help us elude the quantification of Black life. So in a way, this show kind of brings together a set of artists who embrace the idea of going dark through a range of practices of digital refusals and evading, questioning, undermining technologies of capture and structures of hypervisibility. So maybe with that intro, I will maybe I'll just say one more thing to kind of frame when we go through the virtual walkthrough and some of the comments that I'll make. So my interest in this project sort of emerged from these kind of two concerns, one being more social and the other kind of more artistic. And the more sort of or less social consideration pertained to questions regarding Black life today and its relationship to power, visuality, and visibility. And maybe the kind of artistic or aesthetic consideration, curatorial consideration related to an interest in the work of a generation of artists who explored the internet as a subject, a medium, and a foil from a decidedly different perspective than maybe what you could call the first generation of now canonized internet artists like Corey Oak, Archangel, or Oliver Lyric. So maybe as we go, I'll sort of have some words about that in describing some of the artist's work. But now I'll actually pass things over to my colleagues, the co-curators for this exhibition, May and Bianca, and maybe kind of ask, why did you want to help out and join this curatorial project, and share other thoughts that will kind of frame our time together with,
Hello, I'm Bianca. I helped out with the public programming, and I was interested in this project because during this time, we as human beings are facing something that like previous generations never had to, and that's the relationship with technology. And it's a thing that we cannot escape from. And I was interested in how like technology is now being weaponized to oppress and surveil Black bodies as well as brown bodies. And so I am very interested in utilizing public programming to practice pedagogy and provide educational resources to the public to understand how they themselves can practice digital refusal and how they can have self-autonomy in the world, and as well like translate that into the digital world. And I was also interested in how to like digest and process this in practical ways, because this is a huge like conceptual undertaking. And so I hope this virtual talk and exhibition provides that. And then EFA and I will be providing hopefully 2 other public programming workshops in the space or at Power Plant to provide these resources of how to practice digital refusal and abolition tactics digitally. And so May, would you like to share why did you join this project?
So thank you both. My name is May. I use she, her pronouns. And for me, it was really these tensions between hypervisibility, erasure, and extraction, and the implications for how we understand Black life and anti-Black violence conceptually that brought me to the project. So by training, I'm an interdisciplinary social scientist. I have a PhD in geography, and I've only very recently kind of entered the curatorial field and thought more explicitly about politics of aesthetics within my work. And so my research is really thinking about these long histories of colonial and racial surveillance, and also modes of resistance throughout the 19th and 20th century. And so I think that the question of, on one hand, more recent generations of scholars, artists, activists who have grappled with new media technology in their work and their politics, and thinking about how that does and doesn't map onto these longer histories, tracing back to the slave ledger, to the colonial archive, like those kinds of temporalities really are interesting to me. And so I'll also say, because this is Global Black Fine Arts Month, that I applied to this open call shortly after I made an explicit decision to only devote my time and energy to creative projects that foreground radical and transformative approaches to Black studies and racial justice. And so me, it was really about holding space for these questions and for the kind of urgency that's shaping Black politics in the present, but also understanding that that has always been an urgency for our experiences. And so, yeah, I came to this project kind of exhausted in the sense of being overworked, but also within the political moment, and this kind of constant labor of existing between this like loop of Black excellence and there being a few Black artists, cultural producers who are constantly vying for the spotlight, or the alternative of erasure. And so I think that for me, thinking with the pieces in this exhibition and working in community with G and Bianca, with Dylan and HC and Judy, has really provided a kind of reprieve for me and has certainly offered generative openings for thinking about race, technology, and racializing technologies in new ways.
I think that's a great place for us to start in terms of like moving into this discussion and walkthrough. Shall we go to the next slide and sort of start speaking a little bit about the artworks and artist practices that are part of this project?
Yeah, absolutely. So I can start with discussing Stephanie Dinkins's work. So Stephanie Dinkins's contributions to the piece are to the Dark Data show are twofold. So I'm going to first talk about the app that you can see on the pedestal, and then I'll come back to the prints that are on the wall. Can we switch the slides, please? So the app that is accessible on this tablet, which is also available through Apple and Google stores, is called BCAI, or Binary Calculations Are Inadequate. So upon opening the application, the user is invited to, quote, donate data in the form of textual responses or images. BCAI includes open-ended prompts such as, how can your community take better care of itself? How do you care for Black women? And what questions should we ask others donating data? Much of Dinkins's work has illuminated and countered what sociologist Ruha Benjamin has termed the anti-Black box of data algorithms. The anti-Black box is a play on the opaque and insidious processes that produce and populate purportedly race-neutral technologies, and the way that purportedly race-neutral technologies reify and reproduce anti-Black violence, materially as well as through discourse and representation. BCAI's emphasis on care, consent, reciprocity, and queer notions of community and family work against racial capitalist logics. In Dinkins' words, by answering anonymously, you donate data to create more descriptive, comprehensive, and supportive data sets that represent our communities with complexity, love, and deep-seated understanding. This work of recalibration through redefinition and complexity can further challenge narratives of technological determinism. The tools can be repurposed to amplify and manifest affirmations of Black life. The second component of Dinkins' work for dark data, switch slides, please. Thank you. So the second component of Dinkins' work for dark data indexes the limitations of existing algorithms. The GANs, or generative algorithmic networks, could not legibly reproduce images under search terms including Black woman smiling or sad Black woman. As a continuation of Dinkins's body of work since Conversations with Bina 48, Dinkins challenges us not only to understand, not to understand these misrecognitions as technological failings, but as societal ones. The algorithms see exactly what they were taught to see. And so the work of the app is really inviting us to populate these algorithms with better answers, but also to complicate how we ask questions, the terms, the space for complexity, for depth, for explanation, extension. And I think that more capacious notion of data, shifting the care and the content is a through line that I'm going to continue through my comments, and I hope to discuss more in the Q&A.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, I love this idea you offered, May, of like the anti-black box through how Benjamin's work is a way of reading Stephanie Dinkins' practice, but because I think it's also something that carries forward to the artists that we'll speak about next, which is American artists. And another kind of thread that I think is really key to kind of looking ahead to Americans' work in this next slide is this idea that you offer of like technological failings, but not in relationship to societal ones, and kind of denaturalizing the architecture of digital technologies. Actually, HC, could we go to the next slide? What we're looking at now is work by American artist, who's an artist who makes work in a variety of forms, including sculpture, software, video, and a lot of Americans' work kind of mine, as the artist says, the history of technology, race, and knowledge production. And as a way of kind of highlighting systems and inequity, power, and control. You'll see from the medium list here includes aluminum phone, housings, silicone, polyurethane, asphalt, and wood. And maybe actually, could we go to the next slide? Because it gives a really great detail of the structure of this kind of sculpture that's standing upon this custom-made base pedestal that is sort of a vertical stack of a number of cell phones. So my readings of this work are deeply intuitive. So on the one hand, this is like work stands to me as like a reminder of the physicality of the web's sort of digital infrastructure, that these kind of like environmentally and socially destructive infrastructures that are that help perpetuate the web and other kind of internet-based technologies, but are often hidden behind these kind of smooth surfaces of screens that are and are like unblemished devices. And I think also this sort of brings to mind these kind of modes of resource extraction that we'll talk a little bit about. These notions of abstraction is something we'll talk a little bit about in other works that go into the production of such technologies. There's also this really beautiful play between like technological obsolescence of these like old phones and this sort of layered, that's almost geological blob that erupts out of the tower of this like stacked cell phone structure. I think when introducing the work of American artists, one thing I often find myself needing to explain is the artist's unique name. So American is not only the artist's kind of public moniker, but really their legally changed to name. So it's the name that appears not only on their like artist CV and their artist site, but also in W-9s and their driver's license and their passport. So this kind of legal name change isn't just this like discrete performative act, but really a durational gesture and recurring speech act that ends up being reprised with each kind of subsequent reference to the artist and address of the artist. So I kind of emphasize this here because a number of the artists in this exhibition sort of address these notions of visibility and technological encroachment that extends both online and offline. So American's name is this act of anonymity in a way, kind of obscuring the kind of given name that American once had, and potentially the kind of racial, gendered, and biological specificity of the artist's identity, and maybe even their digital traces when you think about Google searching American artist as an artist. But then on another level, the name sort of fixes American within this system of hypervisibility, having the specificity of such a unique name that marks their circulation through contemporary art and American society broadly. So it might be one thing to introduce oneself as American artist to a collector or a curator, but another thing to a landlord or a traffic cop, and some of the realities that might create. So I think this sort of, I'm speaking to this really to point out this idea of like, that I think in a lot of ways that sort of gesture exaggerates a condition that's fundamental to a lot of Black experience in the United States, whereby Black life, has been said to be both unseen and overseen, sort of like or in political terms, kind of like overrepresented and closely surveilled, or underrepresented and closely surveilled. So marked by this like civic excess and lack, or this visibility and quantification at the same time as sort of other forms of invisibility and undervisibility. So kind of problematizing traditional relationships to visibility in civic culture. But maybe I'll stop there in the interest of time, and we can speak about another artist in the exhibition, and I'll pass things back to you, May.
There's a bit of a lag on my side, but thank you so much for offering all of that, G. I have so many things to think about and really like unpack the complexities and contradictions of Americans' name change. And I think that, you know, the tensions between over-surveilled and underrepresented and the kind of strategic maneuvering that the name change poses like within that space, I think is also interesting to think about in terms of other forms of resistance, reappropriation, and what those kinds of possibilities are of like, you know, in some ways it does open up new possibilities, but then it also creates new sets of challenges. And I see those kinds of terms and tensions of refusal also being reworked through Mimi Onuoha's work. And so in Mimi's work, their work foregrounds processes of removal and erasure within data sets and considers the complexities and contradictions of so-called missing data sets. Across their work, Onuoha questions the ways in which societal inabilities to see humanities and value, rather than as a lack of data itself, stalls transformative change. So the issue isn't that we don't have the statistics, we don't have the data. It's, you know, data and evidence abounds, and yet what's missing is political will or ability to stretch the ways that we see in order to mobilize resources on a societal level. So for Onuoha, algorithmic violence is explicitly about how automated decision-making systems inflict harm by preventing people from meeting their basic needs. This reckoning and recognition of violence as both the direct harm of targeted killings, say through drones, police, surveillance, data sets, gang databases, and so on, as well as the calculated extraction of material and social resources, further aligns with the kinds of interventions that Dinkins sets out to make in binary calculations. So in Onuoha's piece, which is called Protocols for Refusal, the artist explores Black women's labor in data centers and raises questions about life, labor, and subjecthood. The caption for the first image, if you switch the slides, reads, "Places where information matters more than we do," as a Black woman stands looking away from the machine cables. If the work of artists such as Trevor Paglen has grappled with the vast assemblage of undersea fiber optic cables that connect big data centers, Onuoha's pieces further grapple with the material and embodied dimensions. Here, the subtle yet defiant gaze can be read as a call to divest from digital and material infrastructures that devalue Black life. Scene 2 reads, "Steward, not subject." And scene 3, "It was ours all along." Protocols for Refusals insist that we see Black women, study their labor and gaze, and unsettle, or perhaps dismantle, a technological common sense of erasure and devaluation. Continue through many of the others as well.
Sorry, May, I on my end, you kind of broke out at the end. What was that last part?
Oh, the last part was just saying that this theme of erasure and devaluation was one that I had also seen repeated through the work of other artists.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I mean, I think maybe this is a good place to sort of transition into to Hannah Black's work, actually on the next slide. And actually, yeah, or maybe in a couple more slides, actually. Oh, here we go. That's perfect. Yeah, so I guess what I'll say about these works is that Hannah began making these shame masks over the last few years. And they reference the types of masks that were used in medieval Europe as a form of like embarrassing punishment devices, used as to kind of like police social behaviors that were seen as kind of social crimes. So infringements like laziness or something like gossiping. And Hannah was attracted to them before how they referenced for her a kind of like bestiality that was meant to evoke a sense of racial otherness as a way of kind of casting someone within this European society as outside, not only in terms of referencing the heads of certain animals like a cow's head or a donkey's head or a rabbit's head that might kind of signal this way of kind of referencing behaviors that are seen as socially unproductive, but really as a way of kind of echoing racial otherness. And often these masks were designed to exaggerate facial features. And this really connects to some of this theme within the exhibition of like the visuality as this mode of social control. And hypervisibility that also creates this sort of anonymizing of the individual who is kind of subject to this form of punishment. Of course, there's also this like punitive logic and carceral logic that's involved as well of how one kind of polices society. That's crucial here. And I think for me, this opens up another kind of larger question about visuality of how strategies of control and governmentality are exercised, anti-Black strategies in particular. So in which like anti-Black policies of violence and economic disenfranchisement are often invoked through structures that are pervasive, but simultaneously anti-visual in many forms. So through regulatory conditions, or through impersonal data sets or algorithmic operations that you mentioned earlier, May, or technologies of quantification, things that are really tricky to kind of visually detect in a way that's distinct maybe from like a kind of former old Jim Crow structure in which racial stratification was exercised through the kind of knowing consent of a citizenry, that might be something similar to like the act of the shame mask or like visual designations. So that's a kind of a question that I think is open in a lot of the sphere in which these artists are working is, how to negotiate this relationship to visuality. On the one hand, we're confronted with ever more spectacular documentation of anti-Black violence, but then at the same time, the undergirding social stratifications that produces those violence are perpetuated through really invisible forms of segregation and structural inequity that are harder and harder to track in a way that that maybe something like the shame mask doesn't is a very different model of. But maybe I'll stop there and we can carry on those questions further in a kind of Q&A part of this discussion. And pass things back to you, May.
Yeah. I was thinking about what you said about the tensions between like an older Jim Crow that was legally codified when we think about the, no Blacks, no coloreds, no dogs types of signs versus the more subtle markers that we have today of those inequalities and those kinds of segregations. And I'm reminded of one of Hannah Black's pieces that was explicitly trying to put the shame mask in conversation with credit ratings and debt stigma, and this idea of like we might not have the visible in your face shame mask to mark, but there are all of these other types of coded designations, forms of differentiation that do that same work of, internalizing the shame onto the person who has the marker, while also producing similar kinds of social implications through public shaming, through lack of access, through the tensions and visibility. And I want to finish by talking about, I guess we have two more artists. And so Sandra Perry's work is a really interesting video installation that I think that we've all seen a few times and had a lot of fun working to get this room, this particular color of blue. So Sandra Perry's video installation, it's in the game, was developed in response to a lawsuit over digital avatars in EA sports games. Perry's twin brother, Sandy, was among the basketball players whose likenesses and season statistics were sold by the NCAA without the players' knowledge, consent, or compensation. Like Dinkins' work, Perry's immersive piece can be read as a radical project of humanization and an indictment of extractive technologies. The lyric refrain, "You are everything, everything is you," is repeated throughout the 16-minute video as Sandra and Sandy Perry share intimate stories through family photos, home video footage, and accounts of teammates who were coming into their own as athletes. And I'm quoting Sandy there. They were from somewhere, somebody's roommate, growing as people. The piece also has a deep historical commentary on the long palimpsestic histories of colonial expropriation as it juxtaposes the contemporary stories of Black athletes with oral and visual acquisition notes of stolen Aztec and Easter Island artifacts that are currently housed in the Met and the British Museum. Like many other critics that have written about this piece, I was initially drawn to the sweeping questions about objecthood and personhood across space-time and to these historical continuities. Yet, the more that I sit with this piece, the more that I'm confronted with the ways that historical meta-narratives so often continue to flatten and erase the possibilities of complex personhood. That is the attention to these sort of like intimate moments, these descriptive details that are really shaping each player and person's individual identity, kind of get erased when we sort of make the sweeping narratives about extraction, expropriation, and so on. And so I read in the game as a provocation to also think about what is and what cannot be in the game. The sorts of humanizing excess of being everything, the work and limitation of abstraction and the impossibilities of total capture. And so this question of capture versus documenting versus surveilling, or sort of in relation to, maybe not in opposition, is one that as a curatorial team, we've been wrestling with through some of our conversations. And I believe that if we click on the photo, we can watch an excerpt of Sandra's video to give a sense of some of these complexities.
So right now it's just screen sharing on the presentation itself. So I might have to redirect the screen share.
That's actually, if you go to the next slide, there might be an embedded clip on that one.
Okay, hold on.
Let's see. Okay, great. So
Here we go. Sarah.
I'm not sure if the audio is on, but you'll get the impression either way. Yeah. If there are connection issues, we could, I don't know if we could, maybe I could see if I can start playing it on my end, and then by the time it loads, we can sort of view it at the end if there's time.
Let me try to lower the quality because it's taking a bit of time to kind of. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think it might also be the embed I put in is for like a really long talk that starts with the video. So it could also be that that it's just a big, it's a lot to stream.
If you want, we can try to stream this at the end of the talk. I think because it's an embed that it's taking a while.
I was going to say we could put the link in the chat.
Oh, great. Yeah, let me do that now. Great. So. Yeah, I've just entered the streaming link for this film. It's in the game, as well as the caption information for reference for everyone. Great.
Okay. I'm getting notifications that the session is ending. Is that a forced closing?
I think we can still continue, but I think they're trying to redirect people onto the main stage. Let's just try to push and like finish this because it is being recorded.
Okay, great. Yeah, I'm my internet's a little choppy now, but maybe I can move forward with the kind of final artist slide that we have, and I can sort of summarize a little bit of this discussion as well. So as E. Jane is the artist who's created this work, You Are a Shining Light, You Are a Light Shining, Maxine Waters. And a lot of E's work explores themes of safety and futurity in relationship to Black feminine identity, and navigates this space of popular culture and network media. So in this work, E is paying homage to longtime US Representative Maxine Waters, who of course is a public critic and of numerous kind of right-wing conservative policies put forward by Trump and previous Republican administrations and conservative administrations, and also a kind of unapologetic defender and advocate of numerous progressive issues. And is also, like many Black women, kind of been misrepresented in mass media, and a lot of E's project in this particular work is trying to kind of restore a certain humanity, and using this sort of radical care and sort of gentle lavender colored neon light that you kind of see here. And a lot of E's past works are also invested in this kind of like honoring and exploring the life of Black women in popular culture, and also kind of addressing, as we kind of mentioned previously, how to reorient a relationship of surveillance and capture in relationship to images and representations of Black femmes to something that is a much more caring, venerative relationship that is kind of documents and records and preserves these representations and identities in ways that are not kind of punitive and restrictive. And maybe one thing just to kind of conclude or return to something I mentioned previously in introductory remarks is, I think E's work is been typical of or representative and exemplifies an approach of a number of the artists in this exhibition who represent maybe a break from a generation of artists who dealt with the internet and maybe embraced a set of tropes, sort of one being sort of the internet as the myth of the kind of techno-utopian sphere of the internet in terms of free play. And then the other being this kind of trope of the avatar as like this figure who could offer us or the user this opportunity to like explore virtual worlds unencumbered by the limitations and realities of our offline identities, be that race or gender or sexuality, geography or class. So rather than kind of framing digital technologies or the internet as this frontier or kind of naturally available resource, I think a lot of these artists are interested in kind of directing a profound skepticism towards these like central claims and want to problematize the notion that digital circulation is entirely innocent, whether that's the circulation of like images or representations and narratives of Black death or Black femmes, and think about how, or even the kind of unconsented capture of Black life and culture for profit in mass media and social media alike. So, this work by E and I think many of the others sort of point to how the performance of the self, after the advent of the internet and of digital technologies and technologies of visibility, provide opportunities to rewrite ourselves, but that we in many ways remain deeply programmed by racialized readings and culturally encoded bodies. But that isn't necessarily a limitation. It's a space of multiplicity and self-invention onto itself as well. And yeah, I mean, I guess is there anything that maybe before we part that May and Bianca that you wanted to add either to this work or others, or kind of framing concepts to sort of share?
I just wanted to add a few more thoughts on the sort of generations of internet scholars and artists, because I was thinking about like how many books from the earlier 2000s were like really celebrating the democratic possibilities of digital connectivity and how it was going to flatten space and time and all of these things. And so like I appreciate the work of some of these artists that are highlighting like the inequalities and injustices that are reproduced through these seemingly race neutral algorithms. But then I also think that holding that in tension with some of the other scholarship that's explored different ways that like the material, like physicality of internet spaces are also unevenly policed and surveilled. So thinking about how like internet cafes around the world that are in majority immigrant communities are surveilled as part of, counterinsurgency, like counterterrorism operations. And so, like Black and brown folks cannot be trusted to just go and send emails to their family and loved ones without having to add all of this detail and data about their lived experiences, thinking about just like access to data, right? And so especially in this last year, we've seen the myth of digital connectivity in education when it's like, not everybody has Wi-Fi. Not everybody has multiple devices for all of these classrooms to be working. And there's all of these layers of lack of access. But then also, I don't think we're yet aware of what kinds of information are being recorded as we're extending digital technologies into different spaces of education. And so just like wanting to hold all of these things in tension in interesting ways. And I think that all of the artists give us something very generative to think with. So we can touch more on some of these remaining questions, or we can take questions from folks who are still with us in the audience as well.
Yeah, I mean, if there are no further questions, yeah, maybe, oh, Dylan, I see just mentioned something. Dylan writes in the chat, thank you all so much. We might also suggest folks come in to see the show and reach out to us after the panel if there are no questions. I think that's a great idea, Dylan. So yeah, and maybe we can kind of wrap up here and just express our thanks for everyone who is with us now or in asynchronously in the digital future, for joining us in this discussion. I feel like it's been something that's expanded my understanding, just listening to you, May, and you, Bianca, and also really powerful to sort of think about this sphere of technology, and that often gets described in very flat ways of as though there's no space for agency or autonomy, and kind of think through the ways in which agency is kind of always being produced and created. I think you can be cynical about the notion that historical structures of power kind of are inherited through more contemporary technologies, and say, oh no, that's terrible. You know, people have been dealing with this for 400 years and we're still dealing with it. But then you could also be like, oh, well, that also means you have 400 years of strategies and tactics of how people found ways to survive and carry on narratives and reinvent the world that one can turn to, and maybe find analog solutions for digital problems from that archive. So yeah, just express thanks. May.
Yeah, I just what you said made me think about like some contemporary examples, like in Texas, where people were just flooding those hotlines where you can report people for having abortions with just like false stories and memes. And like a few years ago, when there was the Standing Rock resistance, and everyone was checking in Standing Rock just so that it really fucked with those algorithms that were trying to track activists who were there, and those kinds of things of, you know, like they definitely have a longer historical genealogy. But yeah, just kind of thinking about some of those concrete tactics that people are constantly reworking, fucking with the algorithms, the possibility of tracing and tracking. So I'm seeing now that we should head to the artist village. But I wanted to thank you all for a really exciting conversation, and for everyone for joining us. And I look forward, please find our emails from EFA, go to the show in person if you have a chance. Thank you.
And I wanted to give my thanks as well before we all head out for everybody's contribution. And I hope people come to space, also the in-person workshops to practice these of digital refusal, as well as self-autonomy and implementing that in your own life. So thank you again, May and G and Dylan and HC.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye,
I'll
everyone.
end the session.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.